Thank you for tuning into Amy's Crypt. Today I am at one of the most haunted cemeteries in Paris, France. It is known as the Pere Lachaise Cemetery, and there are some very famous people's graves here, as well as the ghosts of some very famous people. So let's go check it out. Is this a tomb?
If so, that is one big tomb.
Yeah, so this one stands out in the cemetery like a sore thumb. It is massive. And I actually think that it is a tomb. Like, it has inscription on it.
Felix
It's amazing.
de Beaujour.
So I've just found a statue, and as you walk past him, it looks like his eyes follow you. So this place is absolutely massive, and it's really quite beautiful, as you'd expect with most other things in Paris. But there are a lot of graves here. I think it's around 300,000 bodies that are interred here. And there's a lot to explore. There's also a lot of very well-known people. So there's politicians, there's musicians, there's poets, all sorts of historical figures. So it's a very, very interesting place to explore. So the scariest part of this cemetery is that there's these massive ravens or crows. I don't know if you can see them flying up there, but they're cawing and just flying right over my head. And you guys know how freaked out about birds I am. Thing just walked so close to me.
Amy doesn't like birds.
I'm so scared. So what's really cool about being here is it's a cemetery in Paris, and growing up, American Werewolf in Paris was one of my favourite movies, and it really reminds me of one of the scenes in that film in the cemetery. So our first ghost story relates to a man named Adolphe Thiers, and he was a prime minister here in Paris during the 19th century and is today buried here at this cemetery. We're going to be looking out for his grave because it is said that his ghost will tug on the clothing of anyone that walks a little bit too close to where he is buried. So I believe our ghostly Prime Minister's grave is inside here. Can't get inside. Nothing's been tugging on me yet. But here's a clue as to the next place that I'm taking you. Okay, so the next grave that I want to show you is actually just behind this one, and it is probably the most visited and most famous grave here at the cemetery, and it is the grave for Jim Morrison, who is an American singer-songwriter and the lead for the Doors. So it's very exciting to be here, but it is also a great point of interest because he is thought to haunt the cemetery. So he died here in Paris, France in the very early 1970s and then was buried here. And ever since, there has been many people who have claimed to sight the apparition of him, his ghost, wandering through the cemetery, particularly in this area surrounding his grave. There's even been some photographs that people have claimed have captured him. So let's go take a look at the grave. Okay, so we're just walking around to the grave now, and the whole area has been fenced off. And the reason for that was, sadly, people were vandalising not only Jim Morrison's grave, but also all of the graves that surround his. And this obviously wasn't something the families around him were happy with, so it's all been fenced off. There's even a tree, supposedly a tree near his grave, that had to be also covered with this bamboo sheath, as people kept sticking their gum on it. So there's a few weird things like that. Also, apparently a fan had made up and placed on top of his grave, after the 10-year anniversary of his death, a bust of Jim Morrison, and that was actually stolen after being vandalised many times. So let's go have a look. Alright, so the bubblegum tree is here, and people have continued sticking bubblegum on it, although it is covered up. This one's really cute as well. A lot of these have the nicest statues and pieces of art, and this one's like a kid with his dog. He does though have a pretty terrible haircut. Alright, we're gonna check out inside the columbarium. So I've just found the creepiest baby face up here. Okay, so we have just reached the location of another ghost story. This one is the grave of Marcel Proust. He actually has a very tragic ghost story. So at the time of his death, him and his lover wished to be buried alongside one another here in the cemetery, but that wasn't allowed by the families. So his lover was buried at a separate cemetery, and it is said that at night they both rise from their graves lost and looking for one another. So it's actually a pretty tragic ghost story, but interesting nonetheless. And looking at his grave, it's not one of the grandest or largest tombs here in the cemetery, but it is obviously loved and cared for. There's flowers there. There's even a love heart formed out of chestnuts, which thank you to all my viewers that told me what they were in one of my previous videos. We can see a chestnut love heart right on top of his grave. I love these moss-covered tombs and the vines growing up the trees, and all of the leaves are falling off because it's autumn. It's so beautiful here. So a lot of the graves and tombs in the cemetery aren't that well maintained. A lot of them are beautifully, and this is just a really extreme example of how bad some of them are. This one has completely collapsed in on itself, and it looks like it's been this way for quite a while as well. It looks like it used to have safety tape around it, and now that's just kind of become part of it. So this one just behind me is pretty sweet. It looks like a man and a woman's arms reaching up and holding hands. So I assume it's a couple buried there. So I'm just at another really famous grave here in the cemetery that doesn't have an associated ghost story, but I wanted to show you it anyway out of interest. This one has sadly been covered with a fence also because a lot of people were graffitiing it, and strangely a lot of people took to kissing it with lipstick, and that tradition has kind of continued. The glass that it has been surrounded with has a lot of lipstick kisses on it, and it's a little bit nasty. But anyway, Oscar Wilde has a massive tombstone adorning his grave. It is a half angel, half demon, and it has had its genitalia removed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video at the very haunted Pere Lachaise Cemetery here in Paris. If you did, please remember to like, comment, share and subscribe. That way I can keep taking you to these creepy places. If you want to do a bit more reading on this cemetery or other haunted locations, head to AmysCrypt.com. And remember guys, until next time, stay spooky.